An onslaught of super twisters hammers the Deep South.
There's a tornado right there. That's it. That's a tornado.
200 tornadoes, 300 killed, towns and cities decimated.
It's coming right at us.
We follow the disaster as it unfolds minute by minute.
It's up by sight.
With astonishing eyewitness footage, we live through the chaos.
Jesus, help these people in Tuscaloosa.
I literally thought I was going to die.
And meet the scientists wrestling the perfect storm.
There's houses up there!
In 13 years of storm chasing, I've never seen damage like this.
And for the first time, we find out what it's like to be sucked up by a super twister. April 26, 2011. And in the Deep South, meteorologists fear a giant twister outbreak.
The National Weather Service in Birmingham has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for northeastern Lund County and central Alabama.
We were looking at these forecasts. We were almost scared for what might happen.
Northeast Alabama, Clay County, east central Alabama.
I had never seen these variables so conducive for strong tornadoes over such a large area.
Unique geography makes twisters commonplace in the U.S., which suffers more freak weather than any other country on Earth.
We don't really get significant tornado outbreaks like this in other parts of the world.
This year, temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are abnormally high. A giant mass of warm air heads north, collides with cold fronts from Canada, and fuels a storm system visible from space. And as howling jet stream winds drive atmospheric rotation, experts predict a 3-day twister onslaught.
The morning of April 27th, you knew there were going to be deadly tornadoes somewhere.
Over 2 days, some 60 twisters have already touched down. But today, Discovery Channel storm chaser Reed Timmer expects the deadly cocktail of weather to truly explode.
Now we're going to head northeast, a few hours to the northeast to east central Mississippi, and wait for these storms to come to us. And they'll likely have tornadoes on the ground in the next few hours.
The South provides a runway for long and deadly tornadoes. And Reed suspects the Mississippi-Alabama state line could be the flashpoint.
Look at that shear funnel. Look at that thing sticking out to the right.
Just outside Philadelphia, Mississippi, Reed suddenly spots the day's first giant tornado crash down to Earth.
Guys, look at this! Oh my God. You guys, this is probably one of the strongest tornadoes I've ever seen.
The twister's thundering roar indicates its unusually massive size.
Look at the rising motion on the backside.
As one of a network of professional storm chasers, Reed immediately begins to warn people what's coming.
Hi, I'd like to report a very large tornado on the ground in southeast Mississippi County. Very, very large.
Very violent.
Southeast Mississippi County, east of the town, east of Claytown.
There's debris.
This is a very, very, very violent tornado right now. Very deadly situation. Go, 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 go!
Go that way.
Keep going fast! Blaze! Oh my God.
Look at that tree. Huge tree.
Oh my God! There's houses up there! Houses!
These homeowners have a lucky escape as the giant twister tears up the countryside. But it's not just one tornado. The massive storm system covers the entire southeast, and from it, other twisters suddenly start dropping out of the sky. Cullman, Alabama, 160 miles away and 16 minutes later. Lauren Mino has ignored the warnings. She's driving down Highway 278, late for her 3 o'clock shift.
When I was on my way to work, it looked like it was on the other end of town. It didn't look like that it was where I was going, so I decided just to keep going to work.
Amazed at seeing her first ever twister, Lauren begins filming this remarkable encounter.
Oh my God.
But suddenly, the tornado comes straight at her.
Oh my God. It was right there in front of me. I threw it in reverse and I gunned it down the road as fast as I could. Stuff started hitting my car. I was watching houses being torn up right in front of my eyes.
As the camera continues recording, the tornado picks Lauren's car off the ground and spins it around for a full 15 seconds.
And I was spinning, and it slammed me into a building. Finally, when the tornado had passed, I looked around and I was just like, I was having a panic attack. It was horrible.
Minutes later, the twister is bearing down on Coleman itself.
There's a tornado right there. That's it. That's a tornado.
Look, you see that? That's a tornado.
As it marches unstoppably into town, local residents can't believe their eyes.
That's a tornado.
Mom, come and look at this.
Oh, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Turning at 170 miles per hour, it carves a trail of destruction a quarter of a mile wide straight through Coleman. At 2:54, the tornado smashes into nearby streets. In town, restaurant owner Kitty Spears has no idea what's about to hit.
I could hear a loud roaring, just ear-piercing type sound like jet engines or something like that. And I dove under the counter. The whole building just exploded. The counter crushed down on top of me and I could feel everything. I thought I was going to die. I literally thought I was going to die.
Kitty is buried alive, and as she gasps for breath, the tornado sweeps on through the center of town.
Lightning is unbelievable.
Just blocks away, Greg Wiesand steps out of his electrical store mesmerized by the weather.
It's Greg, by the way. So up here by myself, you can see there's nobody here. Well, I first noticed the lightning, so I was videotaping it on my phone. Wow. And have never seen it before where it was just this intense, just strike after strike. I noticed a change in the wind direction, so I turned with my phone to film it. And there was a tornado. I didn't hear it, it was just there. So I turn and look directly at this monster right in front of me and look up, and it's so tall you don't see the top of it. I'm holding onto a pole outside my business, leaning around the corner to video this thing. And next thing I knew, my legs picked up and it tried to take me into it.
This is the tornado that attacks Greg. The twister rips through the heart of Coleman County, killing 2 and injuring many more. Greg escapes unhurt, And as Kitty is pulled from under her flattened restaurant,
It's just a whole pile of rubble. This whole...
her son records the moments after the twister leaves town.
My mom's in the hospital. The whole VCV was destroyed. This is the whole downtown area.
The giant twister has flattened Coleman. But by 3 p.m., the carnage has only just begun.
It's coming right at us.
The real Super Twister is already on its way. April 27th, 2011. Conditions for the perfect storm have erupted. Hundreds of tornadoes are dropping across the Deep South.
Boom. It was quick. I mean, boom, boom, gone.
In Norman, Oklahoma, the Storm Prediction Center is in overdrive. Outlook forecaster Stephen Goss fears the worst.
It's not uncommon to have one of these storms on radar at any one time, but the number of storms and how close together they were was one of the things that was most surprising to us. It looked like it was going to be an outbreak, in other words, a widespread severe weather event.
Northwest! I got it! Northwest of us!
In Alabama, professional storm chaser Reed Timmer is in the thick of this event.
What's already happened is historic and will be infamous for the rest of our lives. This is an outbreak that only happens once every few decades, and it's only going to get worse.
This is the optimal time for tornado formation. It's now mid-afternoon. The atmosphere has been heating up all day. Conditions are perfect for the ultimate twister to be born. Beneath the storm, high-velocity winds are creating spiraling barrels of air. Thunderstorm updrafts suck those barrels skyward to create a vertical rotating mass of cloud, a supercell. When these violent towers of wind accelerate and focus rotation, a 200-mile-per-hour EF5 tornado hits the ground.
The scale that meteorologists use to rate tornadoes here in the U.S. is called the Enhanced Fujita Scale, or the EF scale. And that ranges from EF0 to EF5, EF5 being some of the strongest tornadoes on the planet.
Go, go, go!
Just 1 in 1,000 twisters is classified as an EF5. Reed suspects he spotted one earlier this afternoon. Another would be phenomenal. On average, there's just one in the U.S. a year. Wow! Yet today, the ingredients are present for more.
That thing is a monster. That could be an F5 right there. You can see it right there, very violent, moving at 60 miles an hour. You can't know the exact strength of a tornado just by observing it visually. You have to have very complex damage surveys. EF5 tornadoes are capable of wiping structures clean off their foundation.
All the signs point to another EF5 tornado dropping at any second. Across the storm's leading edge, massive updrafts push the moist air high into the freezing atmosphere. The frozen water droplets, now golf ball size, fall as torrential hail. 3:20, and it seems a possible EF5 has just touched down in Alabama. This would be the state's first in over a decade. If confirmed, the small towns of Hackleburg and Phil Campbell are about to be hit with the energy output of 2 nuclear reactors, 1 billion watts. They don't stand a chance. Phil Campbell's police officer Gary Wayne Mays is seconds from mayhem. Camcorder in hand, he steps outside to capture the tornado approaching.
I started noticing the cloud up there, and it was swirling pretty good. And that's when I hollered into 911.
Phil Campbell 3 to 911. I got rotation coming through to Phil Campbell right now.
Campbell, I'm sitting here looking at it, right above.
Seeing the cloud swirling, I realized that it looked like it was coming towards us. And that's when I realized that, hey, dummy, you might need to get someplace safe.
Get someplace safe!
More protected, Gary continues filming as the twister hits.
I've been through shootings, I've been through car chases, anything you can think of pretty much in 13 years of law enforcement, and I've never been that terrified.
3:37, and in less than 10 minutes, both Hackleberg and Phil Campbell are leveled.
When you see the very violent EF4 and EF5 tornadoes, you know you're dealing with a different monster. When they approach, they often have a very deafening roar. The motion is so violent, you can see it visually.
And this colossus isn't finished yet. It tears north for a further 100 miles, killing over 70 people. And the day is far from over. Monster tornadoes are striking all across the South.
This thing is throwing up debris all over the place.
And in Mississippi, another suspected EF5 is about to hit. A giant twister outbreak is ravaging the Deep South. One suspected EF5 tornado just wiped out 2 small towns in Alabama. Another smashed into Mississippi. And suddenly at 3:45, a third highest strength twister appears from nowhere. It's the first time in nearly 40 years that 3 EF5s strike in a single day. In its sights is the God-fearing town of Smithville, Mississippi, where Pastor Wes White gave the warnings little credence.
It was a normal Wednesday. We were preparing for service. The sirens went off, but they'd been going off for several days in a row, so that wasn't anything new.
All that changes when the preacher sees the 200-mile-per-hour twister charging straight at him.
It was so fast that we were watching from a distance, and then suddenly it was there. It wasn't like a neat little funnel or anything. It was so huge, it just like blackness engulfed the horizon. And then we began to hear the roar. It was like constant thunder that never stopped.
Oh my God! I can't get in.
The town's 900 residents have just seconds to avoid the twister. Some hide at home while others run for the church.
Folks came from one of the local trailer parks, and they were frightened by the sirens, wanted to know if we had a public shelter.
As the tornado scours the streets of Smithville, Police Chief Darwin Hathcock shelters residents in the police station.
We ended up taking the back office as our safe room because it was the furthest away from the tornado.
In these amazing images, the police cameras follow them into the depths of the building and then record the charging tornado's awesome power.
The tornado looked just like a monster coming toward us. One of the cameras that was set up in the carport, you could actually see it was like a mist came in before the tornado. And then shortly after that, it's just like the carport exploded.
The twister flattens the church and simultaneously blows out the police department's windows. The building is completely annihilated. The twister exerts vast suction power, capable of picking up people, cars, deep-rooted trees, and even houses. When the tornado hits Carolyn Boyd's house, it rips it from its foundations.
The house picked up off the foundation and started twirling in the air. And the house is over there now.
The twister exits Smithville, leaving another 15 deaths in its wake. Half a mile wide, it has destroyed over 200 houses, leaving a third of the population homeless.
It was like a scene from a movie. Things are falling, and people are screaming, and there's crying, and there's sirens wailing, and people are running in all directions, and people are wandering up and down the street, and they're calling people's names. It was apocalyptic.
Alongside the 3 giant EF5s, dozens more twisters are wreaking havoc all along the massive storm system. The day's events make it the largest tornado outbreak since 1974. This map shows the hundreds of twisters that strike across 17 states.
There were 2 EF5 tornadoes in the northern parts of the state that were a mile long and just totally destroyed communities such as Smithville, Mississippi, Hackleburg, Alabama. And those tornadoes were so strong that even if you were underground and took the necessary safety precautions, that you still weren't safe.
Meteorologists are astonished by not just how many twisters there are, but by how far they travel. 3 of the strongest tornadoes cover over 200 miles between them.
Most tornadoes are short-lived, 1 minute to 5 minutes, no more than 10 minutes. But in the outbreak situation, April 27th situation, the bad tornado, they can go on the ground for as long as 100 miles, and they can last for an hour or 2 hours.
So far, the deadly twisters have flattened only small towns, but suddenly yet another massive tornado crashes to Earth, and this one is headed for the big city. Tuscaloosa and its 93,000 residents lie directly in the tornado's path, but Reed Timmer can't get there.
We tried to keep up with it, but then we were blocked by debris. And at that point, we knew there was no way we could keep up with it, and just had to pray for the people in the path of this deadly storm. You had this huge sense of helplessness take over because you know there's nothing we can do to stop this tornado, but we also know that we need to call in those reports and notify emergency managers that there's a potentially deadly tornado heading for populated areas.
With the twister bearing down on his city, Tuscaloosa Mayor Walter Maddox fears the worst.
We knew how devastating a tornado could be, but we had no idea what was coming.
Tuscaloosa, be in a safe place right now.
This is definitely a dangerous situation. A tornado is definitely, looks like it's now touching down.
As the twister sweeps into town, suburban traffic cameras show deserted streets.
This is a large tornado on the ground. Please take cover immediately.
The cameras watch it advance into the outskirts. Ignoring TV and radio warnings, Ryan Chandler goes after the storm with his best buddy, Nate Hewitt. They're filming on Highway 359.
But keep going. I would definitely keep going.
I was really just sucked into seeing it and being as close as possible.
Their camera records the moment panic sets in.
We need to go that way. Damn it, go back.
We're fine.
Go the back. I'm not kidding.
Ryan reverses at full speed up the empty 3-lane highway to escape.
We don't know if this thing can change directions. We're not experts. It's crossing the interstate right where we were.
3 miles north, at the city's incident command center, Tuscaloosa's Mayor Walter Maddox sits powerless.
We watched as the tornado grinded through our city. It took a direct hit on our emergency management agency. So we lost our first response to a disaster the minute it touched down in Tuscaloosa.
April 27th, 2011. A monster tornado is plowing through downtown Tuscaloosa, a city of 93,000 people. Residents are trapped. Some film the vortex, both terrified and yet transfixed.
It's coming right at us.
Computer engineering student Adam Melton and girlfriend Jessica sprint for their neighbor's storm shelter.
We ran across the parking lot and dove under the house, and right before I entered the crawl space, I turned around to look and could see the vortex just coming down on my apartment.
Oh my God, look at everything flying out of it. Let's go take it. Let's go.
Holy get it ready.
A mile and a half away, student Tillman Merritt hides in a bedroom closet while his 3 friends crouch in the hallway. The tornado is on top of the house, ripping it apart.
The closet door was to my back, and it was almost just like it was taking me down. I don't know, into a hole almost.
We're going to stay on air as long as we possibly can. We're getting power glitches. We're watching a deadly situation for the city of
A mile and a half wide and traveling at 50 miles per hour, this twister shows no sign of stopping. Amy Hall is at home. Her 3 kids are having an afternoon nap.
I looked outside and it was right in the street. It was just sitting there, waiting for me to open that door. And I knew that it was coming to my house. I knew it was gonna hit us.
And it continues to strengthen. This tornado is a wedge tornado, multiple vortices on this thing.
It looks like it might be over 1/2 mile wide.
In the crawl space under his neighbor's house, Adam Melton is now at the epicenter of the tornado. He records the moment on his cell phone.
My ears are popping.
Oh, my ears are popping.
Oh my God!
Get away from the door!
The tornado sucks up Amy Hall's entire 4-bedroom house with her and her 3 kids. The house spins through the air.
It just felt like we were in the Wizard of Oz, and the house was just turning, and you could see everything. And you could see trees, and you could see cars just flipping. We were just floating. Like, my heart was racing so bad just to know that we were about to die.
This is Twister.
Ryan Chandler and Buddy Nate are some of the first into Tuscaloosa, moments after the tornado passes.
I can't even recognize this place, and I've driven up and down this. We can't get there. See if you can hop right through there, and there's power lines. Yeah, but you got rubber tires.
The cell phones weren't working. There was no power. It really felt like you were in the middle of hell.
They come across a woman staggering hysterically through the wreckage.
Come on. Get in. Come on.
Oh my God, my dog!
Are you okay? Hey, are people okay?
I don't know. I can't. Oh my God, y'all!
Once the house landed, it was silent. And you didn't hear anything, not even a bird. You heard nothing even falling. And it just seemed like everybody was dead.
We gotta get checked out, people.
As the survivors emerge, the full extent of the destruction is apparent.
This is 15th Street. See power lines down, everything's destroyed. See Shalotskis, or whatever it was. Can't tell anymore.
Adam Melton and his girlfriend Jessica make an incredible escape. The house they were hunkered under is gone, replaced by 2 SUVs resting inches from their heads.
It was unrecognizable. The whole area was very unrecognizable.
See that Jeep? I was under the Jeep. There's a basement there. And I was under the triangle of the Jeep with her. There used to be a house there. I don't even know where it is.
Tillman Merritt has miraculously survived by hiding in a closet.
When I came out, it was just nothing left. I mean, my neighborhood was there 30 seconds before. Nothing was there. And then I just screamed for my friends for as long as I could. But they didn't answer.
Tillman is the only one of the 4 to survive.
I just stood there for a while and didn't really know what to think. I still don't.
The tornado has lifted Amy Hall's house with her and her kids, dumping it a block away.
So we had to find a way out of where we were. And we saw our street, so we started walking.
Unbelievably, she and her children have survived the deadly tornado, but Carter, her son, is critically injured.
And it was a nurse out there, and she said that his heart rate was dropping and that we needed to get him to the hospital. So one of the policemen, he put Carter in his car.
Across Tuscaloosa County, 41 lie dead. The city is in pieces, and Mayor Maddox's emergency services are powerless.
I can't describe what a terrible feeling it is when you learn your communications tower's down. Your emergency management agency is gone. You've lost your East Police Precinct. Your Fire Station 4 is inoperable. Your sewer treatment plant has been hit. Your water treatment plant has been hit. You begin to wonder, how are we going to deal with this disaster?
But this super twister isn't done. It's already 50 miles northeast of Tuscaloosa, threatening Birmingham's suburbs and its million-plus population. More than 100 tornadoes have hit in a matter of hours. And as the light fades, the mega twister that just bulldozed Tuscaloosa has one last surprise in store. In Fultondale, on the edge of Birmingham, Dustin Denny has been tracking the tornado outbreak all day, but thinks the bad weather outside is just a passing storm.
We had 2 different TVs on 2 different local channels going. I had my laptop up looking at the weather, although still I wasn't convinced it was really going to come into Fultondale.
Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
But within seconds, the very same super tornado that decimated Tuscaloosa is right over his head. He runs inside and hides in the closet.
It was all pitch black. The power had actually went off. It was at that point I realized I had the camera still rolling, and I thought, wait a minute, I want to actually get this. I mean, if this thing, I'm on the 3rd floor, if it's going to get me, it's going to get me. So I started to go outside, and I could feel my hands trembling as I opened the door.
Dustin catches this extraordinary footage from inside the eye of the giant twister.
I could feel the wind just pulling me out. It was so dark, but I could see the trees, the silhouettes of the trees, and they just began to fold like blades of grass.
April 27, 2011, Fultondale, Alabama. Tornado just went right through us. Just missed it.
From Fultondale, the twisters sweep on, and the historic day's events remind Reed Timmer of the importance of storm chaser alerts.
It's sickening, the damage that they caused, but it's also motivating for us to go out there and call these warnings into the National Weather Service and try to keep these people warned in the path of these storms.
By Thursday, another 15 twisters are reported, but the storm front is blowing out. Nearly 8 million people live in the worst-hit states of Mississippi and Alabama, and now everyone has a new and terrifying tornado story to tell.
The house was shaken, and my husband, even though we were under the covers, he says, well, there goes the roof. And then he said, there goes the walls.
I stepped over into the hallway, and at that moment, the storm was on us. I mean, it moved that fast from 2 blocks away to right here in 6 steps. I mean, it was that fast.
As survivors pick through the debris, Reed reaches Tuscaloosa to see the destruction with his own eyes.
You got a truck that was possibly carried for miles. You've even got a boat right here. I mean, who knows if this thing was taken from a lake or off of a trailer. I mean, this is This could have been carried for miles. This could have been carried from the other side of the county and just set here. And this shows you that there are incredible updrafts inside tornadoes that can suspend large objects like this. And that's what we've got to try to better understand.
To date, experts have confirmed 201 tornado strikes, killing more than 320 people and inflicting an estimated $5.5 billion worth of damage. In Cullman, Alabama, 700 buildings lie in ruins. 75% of Hackleburg is gone. And in the rubble of Tuscaloosa lie the remains of Amy Hall's family home, blown a block from their original address.
Me and Keith went back to the house maybe 2 days later after the storm, and we couldn't find anything at first. But he came across my birth certificate, and he came across his favorite movie, and everything else was destroyed.
Saved from the wreckage, Amy and Keith's 18-month-old son Carter was rushed to the hospital, but escaped without serious injury.
He had a small concussion, and he had to get 6 stitches, and he had a fractured nose, and his eyes were swollen. His eyes were swollen real bad, but that's about it. What you want, son?
For Reed, on the front lines of storm chasing, seeing the damage is a major reality check.
Putting myself in these people's shoes, I can't imagine what they must be feeling, just losing everything. Their lives are turned completely upside down. And from a storm chaser perspective, a lot of times you're disconnected from this damage. When you see this, it's natural to try to find ways to prevent it.
As the storm system finally dissipates, the people of the southern states cry out for help to neighbors and the nation. The historic tornado outbreak was the country's most deadly natural disaster since 2005's infamous Hurricane Katrina, when official aid was found wanting. This disaster triggered an almost instant response. Friday, April 29th, 2 days after the super tornado's strike, President Obama tours Tuscaloosa promising federal help.
I've got to say, I've never seen devastation like this. Obviously, our biggest priority now is to help this community recover.
Amid the rubble and confusion, one thing is for sure. With every year that passes, the potential for twisters to cause chaos and destruction continues. Despite huge advances in meteorological knowledge, tornadoes remain one of the world's greatest weather conundrums.
There's so much that we don't understand about tornadoes. There's so much, they're so hard to predict on the real small scales exactly where they're going to go. And we've got a long way to go in tornado science and trying to understand, something that's capable of doing destruction like this.
Experts say that within 10 years, new radar systems and computer models will allow them to predict individual tornadoes with pinpoint accuracy. But for now, all that severe weather forecasters can do is put out warnings when they see weather conditions that could produce a tornado.
You're alerting people, you're telling people you need to watch out, and if it doesn't turn out that way, you're losing your ability to get their attention when you need it. So it's always a balance because you don't want to lose your ability to reach people when necessary. And if you are constantly crying wolf, so to speak, people will not respond as you need them to.
90% of the storms that produced tornadoes during those 3 days were correctly forecast.
We all see at least a fair chance of seeing severe storms through this evening.
But after a lifetime of false alarms, people in the South just didn't believe they would be hit.
When I hear people say that they heard the sirens and they just thought it was going to be another small tornado that didn't do any damage, it's frustrating. People need to understand what these tornadoes can do, and they need to be taken seriously. If people would heed those warnings and take the necessary precautions, you could put a dent in that loss of life.
The opportunity is, how are we going to restore Coleman City?
In Coleman, Alabama, Kitty Spears learned the hard way when she was pulled from the rubble of her restaurant with a fractured pelvis. Now she and other store owners discuss the rebuilding of their town.
Coleman can't survive without the Busy Bee Cafe. The community wants it as much as we want it, and we will survive, and we will rebuild and be bigger and better.
Oh, that's hard to watch.
For Greg Wiesand, his terrifying Twister encounter is a memory he'll never erase.
Since that day, I've been unable to sleep. I've had nightmares of that day. The sounds, the destruction, the smells, the sirens. I'll be trying to sleep and I'll just wake up screaming.
That's disturbing. It bothers me. Just seeing this, how close it was.
Tornado right there.
I mean, my life could have ended that day. April 27th, that Wednesday, 2:59 p.m. A day I'll never forget.
And in the ghost town of Tuscaloosa, Tillman Merritt returns for the first time to the site where his 3 best friends died.
First week was, 3 funerals in 3 days pretty much. And after that, it's like, all right, let's start life over again pretty much. This place is not the Tuscaloosa I used to know. It just doesn't seem real. It's just not my home. When I went back, it was just memories of everything that had happened that day and realizing how bad it was again.
There's got to be ways to prevent this. And not only the loss of property and structures, but also the loss of life. There just has to be a way to solve this. And so we just got to keep on working and keep moving forward.
As homes are rebuilt and new trees are planted, storm chasers remain alert because the tornado season of 2011 still has a long way to go.
The National Weather Service in Birmingham has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for northeastern West County and central Alabama, Calhoun County and east central Alabama, southwestern Cherokee County and northeast Alabama, Clay County and east central Alabama,